45.9 seconds left, this game was already over. Indiana was up, Detroit was beaten, the crowd was restless, but harmless. And then one cup flew.
And out of the corner of my eye, I see it coming. Bam!
What followed wasn't just a fight. It wasn't even a brawl. It was the night the NBA realized the line between fans and players wasn't a line at all. It was a lie.
A fight broke out between the Pacer team and the fans in the stand.
You violated the #1 rule for any professional athlete, and that is no matter what is said, no matter what is thrown at you, you don't go into the stands.
Careers ended. Millions were lost. Rules were rewritten. And one moment in Detroit became the most infamous night in modern sports history.
It wasn't a brawl in Detroit Friday night. It was a full-scale riot and one of the ugliest incidents of player-fan violence that we've ever seen in this country.
But don't you think it's important that the NBA has to send a message?
A message will be sent
and send the strongest
possible message
to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Indiana's Ron Artest has been suspended for the remainder of the season. Indiana's Steven Jackson has been suspended for 30 games. Indiana's Jermaine O'Neal has been suspended for 25 games.
It begins small and then telescopes. In the final minute, Ben Wallace goes up for a layup. Ron Artest, a defensive terror for the Pacers, intense and unfiltered, fouls him from behind.
It was too hard of a foul at that point in time during the game.
Wallace shoves Artest in the chest, pushes and shoves on court. They happen. A short scuffle erupts. Players get involved, referees gather, tempers flare, and the game hum of the arena rises a degree. Most times that's where it ends. A technical, maybe a timeout, a lesson in signatures and bravado.
That happens all the time. The pushing, the shoving, that's all fake.
Most of the time, nobody in the NBA don't want to fight. You know what I'm saying? It has to be some real disrespectful shit for somebody to throw some punches.
On this night, while officials huddled and the Pacers' Ron Artest lay on the scorer's table trying to cool down.
Where it all turned is when Ron went and laid on the scorer's table.
Went over and laid down, which is not normal. It's not normal to go lay down on the scorer's table.
Like, that's crazy too. That's almost worse than the foul.
A fan in the stands, later identified as John Green.
I see it coming.
Super slow-mo. Like it just everybody was supposed to see it. That's how slow it went.
Hurled a plastic cup of Diet Coke that hit Artest in the chest. That cup is the literal spark. Artest bolts into the stands, and the entire geometry of the night collapses. Players into fans, fans onto the court, punches flung, chairs hurled. A live TV feed cutting between confusion and carnage. The final 45.9 seconds were never played. A city's arena becomes a scene of mayhem. Watch the clip, and you see decisions made in an instant that then ricochet for years. Ron Artest charges, grabs the wrong man, Michael Ryan, and shoves.
Once I saw him go, I went.
Steven Jackson follows and throws punches at fans who had been taunting and, in some cases, physically striking players. Pacers center Jermaine O'Neal is shown throwing an usher onto the scorer's table as he tries to reach Artest. Usher Melvin Kenziarski and broadcaster Mark Boyle, who had stood up to hold Artest back, are both violently caught in the storm. Boyle suffered fractured vertebrae when he was knocked down and stepped on. Chairs flew. A folding chair nearly struck O'Neal as he came out of the stands.
People were trying to hurt me and others.
It was just a horrible, horrible scene.
The game ended in a police-assisted evacuation.
Hello, 911. Somebody needs to come to the palace and hurry up. Okay, we do have that out there. Hurry now. The fight between the players. Hurry up, please. Okay, we do have people on the way. Please, hurry up.
And then a national nightmare played out in replays. The immediate fallout was swift and brutal. Commissioner David Stern called the melee shocking, repulsive, and inexcusable, and the league moved with unprecedented speed to lock down accountability. Within days, the NBA suspended 9 players for a combined total that would be counted in the triple digits, Artest receiving the longest punishment, a ban that ultimately amounted to 86 games, 73 regular season games plus 13 playoff games. Steven Jackson 30 games, Jermaine O'Neal initially 25, later reduced to 15 on appeal, Ben Wallace 6 games, and others facing shorter bans. In total, the suspensions for Pacers alone summed to the better part of a season. The players collectively lost more than $11 million in salary, with Artest absorbing almost $5 million in lost pay. The league did not just punish, it sent a signal that the barrier between courtside fan freedom and player safety had been breached and would not be tolerated. But this was not only an NBA disciplinary action, it was a legal and social event. Prosecutors charged multiple players and several fans with assault and other offenses. 5 Pacers players, Artest, Jackson, O'Neal, David Harrison and Anthony Johnson, and several fans were criminally charged. Some pleaded no contest and received probation, community service, and anger management orders. Fans were banned from Pistons home games, and at least one fan, Brian Jackson, who had held a folding chair, later faced felony consequences. The courts, the league, and even arbitrators became entangled. O'Neal's suspension was successfully appealed and reduced through arbitration and court action. Artest's and Jackson's suspensions were ultimately upheld. The legal aftershocks, charges, plea deals, probation, jail time for certain fans, and lifetime bans from Pistons games for some attendees stretched the havoc from a single night into years of paperwork and public relations nightmares. Context matters here, because the brawl was not an isolated blow-up, but a flashpoint sitting on a pile of tinder, rising on-court physicality that season. Pacers players already known for edge and swagger, a Detroit crowd that had long considered the Palace a hostile but close to the action environment, and security protocols that were more permissive than they should have been. The way the arena was arranged, low courtside seating, minimal buffer and alcohol being sold in plastic cups, made escalation easy. After the melee, the league and teams quietly overhauled the relationship between fans and players. Security staffing standards were upgraded. Alcohol policies at arenas were tightened, including reductions in the number and size of drinks sold per person and tighter restrictions late in games. And the physical buffer between bench and fans was reconsidered. The NBA also moved rapidly to protect its image in other ways. One of the cultural reverberations was the league's 2005 implementation of a formal dress code for players, a policy framed partly as image rehabilitation in the wake of the Palace incident. These were structural changes meant to close the seams the brawl had exposed. The human stories inside the headlines are messy and essential. Ron Artest, a walking paradox at the time. Defensive maestro, mercurial and haunted by personal demons, later said he'd been trying to calm down by lying on the scorer's table. The cup in his face detonated impulse and fury. Stephen Jackson has repeatedly explained his actions as loyalty. He saw a teammate attacked and rushed to help. Ben Wallace's shove that preceded the entire sequence is often replayed as the why it started, but the more important truth is that the crowd's involvement transformed a typical late game altercation into an existential threat for the players. What the brawl did to the Pacers franchise was particularly cruel. Indiana lost Artest for the season, Jackson for much of it, and O'Neal for a month. The core of a team that had been knocking on the door of a finals run. The club's identity frayed, relationships fractured. Artest would turn the next season only to request a trade after returning amid fractured trust and internal tensions. Stephen Jackson later voiced bitterness at not feeling supported when he emerged from the stands to defend a teammate. Players who had put their bodies on the line suffered not only financial penalties but betrayals of brotherhood and career derailment. Detroit, for its part, carried the stain of a home crowd that had crossed a line. The Pistons organization faced questions about security and fan behavior that were painful and public. Years on, the incident remains a cautionary tale with many readings. Some frame it as criminal behavior by fans that forced players to respond. No civilized spectator should strike a professional athlete. Justice was served to several fans who attacked players. Others point to player responsibility. Players are public figures and must, ideally, avoid entering the stands regardless of provocation. The league's harsh suspensions underscored that on-court players bear a higher standard of restraint. Still others dig deeper. The event exposed tensions of race, class, and image in the NBA. Was the league's later dress code a legitimate attempt at image repair or a targeted cultural policing? Did the rapid, heavy suspensions help restore order or simply provide a theatrical PR response? The answers are not neat, and that ambiguity is part of why the Palace night remains a living document for journalists, sociologists, and league officials. Tactically, coaches replayed the game for years as a lesson in damage control. Film rooms dissected the moments that allowed escalation. How a shove lingers because the referees held the conference. How a player lying on a scorer's table is vulnerable to taunting. How courtside fans can be weapons when alcohol, proximity, and anger mix. Security planners changed sightlines, created larger buffers, adjusted usher training, and venues modified concession policies and how they monitor courtside sections. Those are the operational legacies. The NBA's playbook for keeping the arena a safe zone is now, in part, a direct descendant of the Palace. And then there is the human arc after the headlines fade. Ron Artest, who later changed his name to Meta World Peace, rebuilt a career and, eventually, a public narrative about growth, therapy, and service. Stephen Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, and others continued their careers with complicated legacies. Fans who were banned told their own stories of regret or justification. Some later engaged in outreach and community work with players they'd once confronted. The night that looked like a pure image disaster evolved into a long, ambivalent history of accountability, rehabilitation, and cultural reckoning. If this story stayed with you, not just the highlights but the ideas behind them, this channel is built for that kind of basketball thinking. I'm growing it slowly alongside a full-time job. Subscribing is the simplest way to make sure these stories keep getting told.